Look at her go.
Good morning, Center for Spiritual Living, Delaware. Welcome. And my name is Jenny Stewart, for those of you who don't know me. The theme for March 2021 is Open to Possibilities. And the topic for today is Commit to Transformation. Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith tells us visioning is always for self-transformation. It's always to shift our perception of reality. And this process goes on forever. We just become bigger and bigger places for it to express through. Reverend Michael Beckwith wrote in Life Visioning, page 17, the purpose of visioning is not simply about the narrow confines of personal fulfillment. It is an expansion of consciousness into the realization of your true self. Let us reflect on this affirmation of truth as we say it together. I relax and behold God's grace unfolding as my life. And now I send this back to our beloved, beautiful, radiant, the ultimate possibilitarian, Reverend Dr. Kathleen Johnson.
Hey, Jenny, it takes one to know one. All right. So I have a question for you. Why doesn't Superwoman need a boss? Anybody? Michelle?
Why?
Because she already has supervision. All right. So do you and I, my friends. Yes, this is the last week where I'll be offering you some puns related to visioning. But you and I we have supervision. Why? We actually have super hearing and all of that as well, because the spiritual faculties of vision, hearing, and those other sensations that we feel in this time-space reality are sourced in the essence of who we are, which is an individualization of God. So that is why we can see with the inner eye and hear with the inner ear possibilities that have not even been made manifest at this point in time. So this month we are focusing on the spiritual practice of visioning. And I trust that this is something you will continue with for the rest of your life, because it is such a powerful spiritual practice. I know those of you who tuned in before service with Peggy experienced this thing called visioning. And it's important for us to understand what this whole thing is all about. And you got some tastes of this throughout the month, and those two quotes by Reverend Michael Beckwith that helped you tune into realizing that it's really all about self-transformation. So it's about self-transformation. It's about learning and cultivating that ability to see beyond this time-space reality into the field of all possibilities, and also to embrace and embody who we are in truth. And here's the thing is that, another name for God, I think that would be very appropriate, would be original artist. And I think it's important to think of the divine in that way, the original artist, the mastermind or creative master behind the universe, and to realize we are made in the likeness and image of that one. So we are original artists in our own lives. And the more we realize that, and the more we accept our divinity, the more we're able to really dive into the visioning process and open up to these ideas that might come to us that our human mind will tell us, or conditioned mind might tell us, oh, that's impossible. But when we live from a place of knowing that all things are possible in God, that means as we know ourselves to be in partnership with the infinite, and actually to be an extension, an expression of the infinite. In fact, it's like God's presence concentrated right here where we are as our very own being. The inspiration that comes from that field of all possibilities and potentialities, and the all universal law, all of it. Because our eyes and our five senses see us as these separate little beings over here in this big universe, we sometimes can easily forget that. So that's why the visioning process puts us back in touch with that over and over and over again. It reminds us of who we are in truth, and it allows us to enter into being the original artist of our lives, and our, not only individually, but collectively. In fact, a beautiful collective thing that's going on the grander scale of Centers for Spiritual Living, they have a visioning team that meets regularly and has for quite a long time, and catches the highest vision. This is one statement that came through their global vision. It says, we see a world in which each and every person lives in alignment with his or her highest spiritual principle. That means our highest selves, emphasizing unity with God and connection with each other, a world in which individually and collectively, and here's the statement I want you to listen to, we are called to a higher state of consciousness and action. We are called to a higher state of consciousness and action. That's the call of Centers for Spiritual Living. That's actually the call of spirit. They caught that from the mind of God. We are all being called to an ever higher state of consciousness. And that consciousness, what is it? It's unity with the divine. It's oneness consciousness. It's God consciousness. It's Christ consciousness. It is Buddha consciousness, whatever you call it. It's that state of unity and understanding who we are in truth, and then moving that into action in our world. The practice of visioning then helps us hone and strengthen and listen to and accept that call to higher consciousness and action. So today I'm going to be talking about how this, these different aspects of this thing called visioning. One is aligning with our divine purpose. The second is the hose analogy. And the last is willingness and commitment. So this thing called alignment with our divine purpose, I go back to what is the nature of God, the nature of the one presence, love intelligence. So that is our nature. So and God distributes that love, and it becomes creation, uses that love, turns it into form. Everything here is a thought form. It's a form of thought in the mind of God. And so when we understand that's the ultimate purpose of the divine, that's our ultimate purpose as well. We are distributors of love. We're distributors of love. And that can sound like kind of nebulous, but it means putting that energy of love into everything we do and everything that we create. It's coming from that place. What would I love to do? What would I love to create? And so we are all distributors of love in our own unique way. We're all original artists, right? Co-creating this amazing experience called human life on this planet. So our challenges then become the catalysts of rockets of desire. Rockets of desire. What would we love things to be like? I mean, if we remember, that's the context. When something comes up that's not quite what we want, we can just say, okay, so what would I love? What would I love? And so love is the power that sets the creative process in motion And, fear does too, but that's not where we're going with this. It sets the creative process in motion, and universal law then is activated and brings that into manifestation. So there's love and there's law. And Ernest Holmes emphasizes that over and over again. And the thing is we cannot solve a problem or a challenge from the same level of consciousness that created it. So what must we do? We must evolve in consciousness. That's what visioning is all about. It's about evolution of consciousness. So we must align with our purpose, which is love, and rise into a higher state of alignment, of living in those vibrational frequencies of love and gratitude and peace and joy and all of those things that support us in being the instruments of the divine. So grand artistry and evolution of consciousness. It's Women's History Month. So I of course thought of one of the women that I greatly admire, and her name is Lynn Twist. Someone who I see as someone truly aligned with this idea of love, divine love, and what can I do? What would I love to do? What can I do that can make a difference on the planet? She loved the planet. She loved the planet. And so she formed a partnership. She co-founded the Pachamama Alliance. Many of you have heard that already, focused on doing things with other countries, and particularly South America. She aligned with a lot of the people there to do things that would make our world more sustainable. And rather than go into details of that, I think I'll leave that there. But she also became very focused on ending world hunger and became part of the Hunger Project, and then went on to form another organization. She founded the Soul of Money Institute that provides small business loans to people in third world countries to help them start their own businesses and to give them all of the training that they need. So her vision kept evolving over the years, her 40-year career. She kept moving, I am absolutely sure, into higher and higher states of consciousness as she began to see what was needed on the planet, and then what it was that she could bring to support those changes. And she writes, I have discovered in almost every arena where I have worked, whether it's ending hunger, eradicating poverty, working on peace, or stopping violence, and even environmental sustainability, the key intervention has been the empowerment of women and girls. This has been a huge and important revelation, the expansion of her own vision. It has given my life and the life of every woman that I know and touch tremendous meaning. We live at a time when the voices of women and girls, which represent love, intuition, and compassion, are the critical factor needed and wanted in the world today. It has been a privilege to work with women of the Amazon, women living in poverty and oppression and war in Africa, women living under harsh Islamic rule in the Middle East, and women considered property and chattel in India. When women find their voice, everything changes. And so what she talks about is educating women and giving women small business loans and teaching them how to vision, catch a vision, and gain the skills that they need. Actually has a powerful cause and effect to eliminating poverty, supporting sustainable environment, the sustainable environment, because of the farming, the sustainable farming skills that they use, alleviating hunger and stopping violence. Simply by educating and giving some attention, empowering women to find ways to support themselves and to support their communities. It all begins with vision, with seeing possibility beyond what, the same old way of being. And it all depends on this energy called love. What would I love to do? Our ultimate purpose. Let's move on to the hose analogy. This is a good one. This is one I heard a long time ago. It's probably one of the first analogies that I heard. I can remember Reverend Bruce Ginther offering this years ago. This was back in the 1990s, but it's so powerful in explaining how things work. So, it's the springtime. And it's time fairly soon, not today, of course, but it's fairly soon to hook up the hose outdoors, to turn on the faucet and water our flowers. This analogy is so powerful because it describes who we are and how we function. We are like the hose. When it's clear, the water, you turn on the water flows, that water being the ever-givingness of spirit, love itself, pours through us and as us. But what happens if the hose gets twisted? It cuts it off the flow, right? Or if we put our foot on it, if we're standing on it, this is the old-fashioned hoses that were very collapsible. If we put our foot on it, or if there's a rock on it or something, there's no flow. So our work then is removing our foot from the hose and finding places where we can untwist it and get it back into perfect working order. I love that analogy because it just reminds me what my work is, which is just removing the obstacles of false belief from my consciousness. And at the same time, it's a reminder to embrace who I am in truth, that conduit, that vehicle, that vessel of the Most High, and also the Most High itself individualized. Because the vision, the highest vision of our lives is already perfect in the mind of God, our work then is to just simply do that work of self-transformation, of removing the erroneous beliefs and embracing who we are in order for the vision to just show up. And of course, we listen to guidance, we take action according to guidance, but that's the essence of it. It's about becoming a vibrational match to the vision. So the process is evolutionary. As Jenny, that beautiful quote that Jenny just read a little while ago, we become bigger and bigger and bigger places in consciousness through which broader and broader visions, like what happened with Lynn Twist, become manifest. Okay, so the next one, willingness and commitment. Reverend Michael says, where there is willingness, there is a way. And where there is willfulness, there is a wall. What does willfulness mean? Willfulness is that resistance that we feel to the process of self-transformation. It's our resistance to acknowledging and recognizing who we are. It's that resistance to self-sabotage, the things that we do to self-sabotage. So I'm going to read that again. Where there is willingness, there's a way. Where there is willfulness, there's a wall. That wall is the structure of our false beliefs. It's otherwise known as the ego or the conditioned mind. So in order to do that, we know, we've learned so many different techniques, haven't we, of clearing out false beliefs. We've learned tapping, we've learned spiritual mind treatment, we've learned, I know the Byron Katie technique is really powerful. we could go on and on and on with all the different things that we've learned. But here's the part that's really important: willingness and commitment. The willingness to be aware of what's going through our minds, how we're feeling, and the commitment to saying, no, that's not the truth. When you hear a thought that's, in your mind that's not empowering, that's actually depleting, it's saying no to that and then replacing it with the truth. I mean, that's the essence of it, right? And so that feeling nature that we have lets us know when we're getting off track. Commitment. I want to share with you a story from the World Vision website. This is something different from Lynn Twist, but it's just so exciting to see that there are more and more organizations that are seeing the importance of empowering women across the planet. And this particular one is, there are actually multiple stories on this website of women who were transformed in how they saw themselves and transformed in and embracing the possibilities in their lives and realizing their visions. This is a story about Irene from the African country of Malawi. She was forced to drop out of school at age 12 after her father died to help support the family. And then she married at age 19. And then 5 children later, she found that she and her husband had nothing to feed the children. And so through the training that she received, provided by World Vision, she began to see some new possibilities for her life. She began to see herself in a new way. And this is what she said. She said that she let go of her limited idea of herself and embraced God's love as the energy that empowered her to take responsibility for herself, her marriage, her family, and her community. Irene then learned new ways to farm. I'm sure it was sustainable farming through these different organizations. And she joined with other farmers to turn subsistence farming into a real business. The community elected Irene to be the leader of the farmer groups. There were 5 different farmer groups. And there were 150 people who were all farming together in those various farm groups. So she was elected to be the leader of this. So this is one of the many stories of how important this thing called seeing the truth about ourselves and living in vision, what that can mean for our lives. So are you willing to transform? Are you willing to commit to transformation, not just occasionally or even just once a day, but on an ongoing basis, to be willing to watch the atmosphere of your feelings, which point to what's going on in your thought world, and to be able to choose higher feeling thoughts. The moment that you feel yourself going down the rabbit hole of negative emotion, right? Being willing to choose a higher feeling thought. That's the essence of it. Are you willing to commit to that? I know I am. So the daily disruption of our lives from this pandemic, I know has been a calling for us, a calling to re-see and revision the world and our part in it. We have a very vital part to play. Please do not ever diminish the part that you play in this, in the well-being of this planet, because it's a really big part, because we know who we are, and we know the power of the word, and we know the power of visioning. The decade of the 2020s is a critical turning point in all major issues that face this planet. We know this. Lynn Twist calls the 21st century the Sophia century. a time when women will step into their rightful role in co-equal partnership with men to bring the world into a new era of balance, peace, and prosperity. We don't need to make something happen. Simply, we rest in the awareness that the vision being revealed is already complete. That's key. We understand it's already complete. We've caught the vision. So let us then honor Women's History Month by committing to transformation. That's our part in it. Whether we are a woman or a man, committing to transformation is being willing to release what doesn't serve and embracing new ways of showing up. When we become holders of God's grace unfolding in our lives, we become the instruments of the divine. We fulfill our individual and our collective purpose, which is to be the presence of love, co-creating heaven on earth, a world that works for all of us. Namaste, my friends. And so it is.
So it is.
So I'm now passing this back to my dear friend, Deb Chamberlain.